welcome, and fuck you. Having to do that now to make sure that people understand. I'm not a kids channel. I don't get monetized anyways these days, so who fucking cares if I cuss, right? Anyways. Today we're going to be discussing Noble Knights, deck profiles, and theory. I'll probably come up with a better name for that later, but we're going to deal with that for now. I don't feel like editing or anything, so we're going to do this in a real face-to-face, heart-to-heart, kind of, I don't know, personable way. So I'm going to show you what I'm currently using for my deck profile. But I'm also going to explain this isn't the finalized version. I'm going to discuss cards that support Noble Knights, cards that I've found are comboing well, different variants that you can do. But right now this is, I've changed it like 15 times yesterday, it felt like. I just can't really hammer down one particular way. So I figured instead of, I'd try a new format. Instead of just coming to you and saying, this is my deck profile, look at the cards, I'm going to show you the cards, I'm going to discuss how they benefit the deck, and I'm going to show you cards I'm not using in my deck, and I'm going to show you more than one version of the deck. So, if you've never run Noble Knights, this will be eye-opening. If you have, hopefully I'll show you something you didn't think about. So, anybody who's ever run Noble Knights, which, let's see, let me move my webcam. Well, I'm going to keep that where it is. Colored box. Hold on, I'm kind of doing this live. So where is... there we go, event list. Alright, I'm just going to move me up. You don't really need to see the full picture of the card, I guess, but where can I just put my face? It's not going to be in the way. How about down here? We're just getting in front of the logo. Doesn't matter. Okay, so yeah, Madrout is sort of one of the key search cards for the deck. So if you're running this, you need 3 Madrouts. Period. It sucks to get 3 Madrouts, but you need 3 Madrouts. What they do is when you equip them with an equip spell, they become level 5, they turn into a dark monster from a light, and then if they're the only monster on the field, you can special summon a Noble Knight monster from the deck, destroy the equip spell. All the Noble Knight cards so far, equip spells in the Duel Links do come back. The one that doesn't isn't in the game. But the equip spell will revive itself, and then you can choose to equip it to the monster you summoned or back to Madrout. And if you notice in this variant, the only other monster I'm running is Dristan. Now, only other Noble Knight monster. Dristan, when equipped with an equipped spell, you get to target one card on the field and destroy it. So it's really handy. I'm also running 2 of these. This is a card that I think was recently added, because I just got it myself. It's Kiteroid. Really, really handy. You can pitch it from your hand to the graveyard, and you won't take damage during that battle. And then you can banish it and do the same effect again while it's in the graveyard. So it's a 2-for-1 card there. Now, as you notice, I'm using only 3 different, 2 copies of this one, but I'm only using 3 different Noble Arms equip spells. Hey, Violet, can you turn that down a little bit? So, where was I? Yeah. So this equip spell, you equip it to a warrior type monster. Once per turn, it can't be destroyed by effect or battle. Very handy. This one, they gain 1,000 attack, and then, every standby phase of yours after that, you lose 200 attack. Not really that big a deal, especially since I'm comboing most of these with Double Cyclone, but I'll get to that. And a Furter. A Furter and Destiny. Which, this one's Gallatin? But anyways, if I'm saying that right, Furter. But a Furter and Destiny are the 2 most important ones. Because a Furter will destroy any face-down card on the field. But whatever monster it's equipped to will lose 500 attack. So it does have a little bit of cost, but you can't do that every turn until it doesn't have enough attack to pay the cost. Like I said, good for destroying face-down monsters or spells. And this one protects them. The reason I've been throwing in Gallatin, which I didn't really do a whole lot before, is the invoked monster, the fusion one that it's summoned in defense, and then it can attack in defense. But one thing a lot of people don't notice, because they see the tremendous amount of defense that it has, but they don't realize that when it's attacking, it's only counting for its attack points. So its attack points are usually only 1,800, but that can up to 28. So if you were to, for instance, make your Driston 2800 attack, and he's got a Destiny on it, they'll just crash into each other. It'll die. Destiny will keep it alive. So it's actually my way of dealing with the invoked fusions because they can't target them. You can't destroy them. It's just driving me insane. I'm running 3 of these Glory of the Noble Knights. But it's a quick play spell that'll let you take any equipped spell from the deck and equip it to a monster on the field. So what I like to do is I'll use my Drought to pull out a Driston, but I won't equip Driston with anything yet. And I'll set one of these down. And so during my opponent's turn, when they do something, you can activate this and equip one of your equipped spells just straight from the deck to Driston and trigger his effect. And blow up whatever they're doing, disrupt their entire plan. Now this combo's really good with Double Cyclone. Now, you can also combo this with, where is it? I'm so blind. Right here. You can also combo this with Storm. Storm will let you destroy all of your spells and traps, which if they're more than likely going to be your equipped spells, they'll just come back anyways, and then you can destroy all your opponents. Face downs. The reason I'm not going with Storm and I'm using Double Cyclone, even though I only get 1 destruction instead of multiples, is because that acts as a quick play spell. So say I've got a Driston on the field who has a card equipped to him, and it's my opponent's turn. Not only do I get to destroy one of their spells and traps, I can then bring my equipped spell back, equip it to Driston, and trigger his effect again. So constantly destroying your opponent's stuff. And a lot of people don't run these. I like them because once you've got a Driston and an equipped spell in the graveyard, this is a monster reborn just for Noble Knights. Not only does it bring back your monster, but it also equips them with an equipped spell. Very, very useful. And like I said, this is just the variant I'm using right now. You can kind of ignore these. I'm not really using them. They're just stuff that's in there that you can do. So actually, I guess I'll discuss them now. This is Dark Cavalry. It can just be a Dark Magician in any warrior type. So if you want to make like a Dark Magician, Noble Knights kind of thing, this is an option for a fusion. This is a new fusion monster I just noticed recently. I didn't even realize we had a whole bunch of new Noble Knights monsters. I'll discuss some of those right now. I don't really have enough of them to, I think, effectively use it. But some of the new cards include Horse of Floral Knights. When it's normal summoned, you can add a Noble Knight Spear Holder, which is the other monster needed for the fusion summon of Centaur Mina. Or you can add a Polymerization to your hand. So that, if you had more than one and you were really focusing around this fusion monster here, it's a pretty good engine. And this fusion monster is nice. Once per turn, your opponent activates a trap card during your turn, and this is a quick effect. You can negate the activation. And if you do, you set that card back face down. So that part stinks. But the fact that you have that negation power really helps protect your monsters. Like I said, I only have 1 Horse of the Floral Knights, so I can't effectively run that kind of deck profile. But it also combines with Noble Knight Spear Holder. Now, Spear Holder can be useful, period, even without running the fusion, because you can tribute the card and then add any equipped spell from the deck to your hand. So, running that in conjunction with, say, Noble Knight Brothers. Noble Knight Brothers, when you normal summon it, you can special summon up to 2 Noble Knights from your hand straight to the field. So if you had a hand of Noble Knight Brothers and 2 of these Spear Holders, you just immediately got 2 equipped spells on the field, or in your hand, and you've got a monster on the field. There's also Noble Knight Shield Bearer. And like I said, a lot of these are new, so I haven't really thought of a whole lot of ways to use them, but I'm going to go ahead and mention them here too, since this is just theory and discussion, so you might come up with an idea. I haven't, and if you do, drop it in the comment, because I am just always open for ideas. But when this card is normal summoned, you can banish 1 light warrior monster in your graveyard and then draw a card. I personally can't find a super good use for it because I feel like that wastes my normal summon. Yes, I do get a draw, but then I can't bring it back from the graveyard with my what is this called? Last Chapter of Noble Knights. And then I have a monster with only 800 attack on the field. So I feel like, personally, the way I run the deck, it's not a great choice, but it is there. The Synchro monster, a lot of people don't like to use it, but it's actually really good. The tuner for Noble Knights is the Lady of the Lake. Now, if you're running this deck in conjunction with Cyber Darks, what I usually do is I run 3 of the Dragon Cyberdark that you just pitch it from your hand to the graveyard to add any other Cyberdark monster to your hand. And then when you summon, here, I'll just search those up real quick. I'll explain my way of getting that out. So yeah, I usually like to run 3 of those and 2 of those if I'm running a Cyberdark Noble Knight deck, which I do if I'm trying to pull off the synchros. But that's a Cyberdark Cannon. So yeah, you can discard it from your hand and add a Cyberdark monster to your hand from the deck, which then you can normal summon. I would search out Edge with that effect. When Edge is normal summoned, you can equip the cannon to it. It'll become over 2,000 attack strength, and you can attack directly, but it only deals half the damage of its overall attack. Now, when Cannon is equipped to it, Cannon will activate its effect when you attack of being able to send any card or any monster from your deck to the graveyard. So it's a really good engine to send Lady of the Lake, or, which Lady of the Lake is the, which, yeah, I'll get to the or in a second. Lady of the Lake has an effect. So when she's in the graveyard, if there's a level 5 Noble Knight monster, which if I mentioned earlier, Madrout, and also Boars, both of them, when equipped with an equip spell, will become level 5. So you can special summon her from the graveyard, and it'll drop their level back down to 4. So then you can easily use them right then to synchro summon into Ignoble Knight. Now, the cost of this, even if you don't use her effect, which her effect can be good for just, even if you don't want to synchro summon, you can just keep throwing her on the field as just extra added, defense, because I'm pretty sure you can just keep using her effect over and over. Let me make sure of that. Yep. She only gets banished when you use her for a synchro. So when you synchro summon this, she gets removed from play. But when this card is synchro summoned, you can equip one Noble Knight equip spell, or Noble Arms equip spell from the deck to the card. And that's awesome. And if he destroys a monster by battle, at the end of the battle phase, you can add any Noble Knight or Noble Arms card from the deck to your hand. So honestly, he's really good. On top of the fact that he's dark. Now, dark is very useful for Guinevere, which if you notice I wasn't using in my deck list here, but this is the first deck list I've ever made without her. She is usually a pretty essential card to have in the deck. I was just trying out to see how I could do it without her. But she acts as an equip spell. You can equip her from the hand or from the graveyard to a Noble Knight monster. If she's equipped to a light Noble Knight monster, then you can, if they would be destroyed by a card effect, you can send her to the graveyard instead to protect them. But if she's equipped to a dark Noble Knight monster, during the battle phase, is it the battle phase or the damage step? Oh, it just says if the equipped monster battles an opponent's monster at the start of the damage step, you can destroy that monster, then destroy this card. And I like how that's worded too, because if something protects that monster, then she stays too. She doesn't get destroyed if they don't get destroyed. So that's really useful, for instance, if you're going against like the Elemental Hero guy, where they can banish the card from the graveyard to protect their monster. If they do that, you're still in the process of attacking. So if your attack strength is higher, they just remove their protection through Guinevere's effect. But she gets to stay, and then you attack over them and kill them. So, very useful tactic there. Another really useful card for this deck is a Vylon card. Which, actually, let me talk about Boars first, because that's kind of essential for that strategy. I used to run, here we go. So, Noble Knight Boars. If you're wanting to run more equip spells and using Boars as your default search engine, especially because it can also search out Guinevere, since she is a Noble Arms and not a Noble Knight. When he's equipped, he becomes level 5 in Dark, just like Madrout, but his ability is you can pick 3 Noble Arms cards from the deck, and you reveal them to your opponent, and then they pick one at random to go to your hand, and the other 2 go to the graveyard. So this is a good way to fill up your graveyard with equip spells, as well as get, usually people do it to get Guinevere, but you can also just fill up your graveyard with the equip spells, and then use them from the graveyard, like this. So I ran multiple Vylon Matters. Now what this says is you can select any 3 equip spells in your graveyard and return them to the deck. Then you get to choose one of these effects. A lot of people ignore this card because they think they just read that first one, draw 1 card, and they're like, That's not that useful. I only get to draw a card. You can do that, or you can destroy one card your opponent controls. And that doesn't target, by the way. So if they're preventing targets but not destruction, you got them. You just, because it doesn't use the word target, it doesn't target. And so that's a very powerful card. On top of the fact that you're constantly cycling your equip spells, you get to use Boars over and over to search. Plus, Guinevere is really good to use with Boars since he counts as a dark one while equipped. So you can just destroy monsters by attacking with Boars. And then you get to use Vylon Matter to just keep recycling all of that stuff. It's a very nice concept for a deck, and that's what I've been using until now. Mainly because I'm trying new avenues of disrupting my opponent during their turn. That's a very strong one during your turn, but that deck profile doesn't give you as much control during theirs, and that's why I'm trying to come up with this. I think I basically said the same thing twice there, but sorry about that. Now to discuss skills that are handy. Right now what I'm using is Sealed Tombs. Let's see, let's scroll down here. So Sealed Tombs is very useful for disrupting your opponent. Until the end of your opponent's next turn, neither player can banish cards from the graveyard or special summon monsters from the graveyard. You only get to use it once per duel, but if you time it right, you can disrupt decks from you, like especially Duel, but you can disrupt Invoked or at least hold them off a turn. It's very, very handy, especially against hero decks, because if they got the protection and you don't have a means to get through that protection, you activate that, they can't protect their crap anymore. Same thing with 6 Sams. So anything that banishes something from the graveyard to activate some kind of protection effect, it's totally ruined. Now, of course, there are other options. There are other options for skills. And let's see. Oh, actually, before we do that, I'll discuss Red Eyes Noble Knights. That's pretty useful, too. I don't have enough of the Red Eyes cards to really pull it off effectively. As you can notice here, I only have one of that. But Red Eyes gives you that added layer of protection, because if you're using the Red Eyes / Dragon Fusion, it can send any equip spell that you control to the graveyard to negate the activation of your opponent's effects that target your cards. It says when a card or effect is activated that targets a card you control, this is a quick effect, you can send one equip spell or one equip card you control to the graveyard, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. If this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon as many monsters from your graveyard as possible that were equipped to this card. Because when he attacks, you can target any warrior type monster in your graveyard and equip it to Red Eyes / Dragon as an equip spell. However, you don't have to do that with this deck since you already have equip spells on the field. Oh, another card that's really good to use with Noble Knights, since you aren't going to be using a lot of trap cards, is Treacherous Trap Hole. If you run like one copy like I was, then you're almost always guaranteed to use it since you can't have any trap cards in your graveyard to even activate the card. Plus, I only have one copy. But yeah, I only own one Red Eyes Fusion, and the way that works is you can send from your deck or hand to the graveyard the fusion materials required to fusion summon Red Eyes / Dragon. However, you can't normal or special summon any monsters for the rest of that turn other than Red Eyes / Dragon. You can set monsters, so keep that in mind. And so with only one of these one of these fusion spells, it wasn't super viable for me to run the deck, because I was trying to use Black Metal Dragon to search the card out, which Black Metal Dragon, you can equip it to any Red Eyes monster as an equip spell. It'll gain 600 attack, but if it goes from the field to the grave, you can add any Red Eyes card from deck to hand. But as I stated before, it just was not fast enough to really, for me personally, to be able to pull off a Red Eyes Noble Knight deck. But that is definitely on the table as an option. Let's see here. Now I'm going to go over the one person that has skills that can be very easily used for Noble Knights is Leo, because Leo uses equip spells, so he has a lot of skills based around equip spells. So if you're not really feeling onto the Sealed Tombs, let's see. I've gone. Wait, I'm in GX. God dang it. Why do I always hit GX when I'm trying to hit 5Ds? Here we go. Now this is an old variant of the deck I was using, which I was talking about earlier with the Vylon. Let's see. Equipment exchange is a good skill. So what that does is this can be used when your life points are at 3,000 or lower. Return up to 2 cards, including at least 1 equip spell from your hand to the bottom of your deck, then draw the same number of cards as you return. So in a way, it's kind of like switcheroo, but you get 2 cards, and it's a guaranteed you will not get those cards back because they go on the bottom. Switcheroo just shuffles it in, I think, and then you draw one. But it's basically a pumped up switcheroo, and I really like that. Although you can only use it once per duel. So in a way, it's kind of as good as switcheroo, I guess, in the amount of cards you get. However, you get them both at the same time. Now there is also equipment restock, which I use that a lot too, back when I was first building Noble Knights decks. This can be used if you have 3 or more equip spell cards in your graveyard. Randomly add 1 of the equip spell cards in your graveyard to your hand and return all equip spell cards in your graveyard to your deck. And this skill can only be used once per duel. So you have several options for skills. This is also a really good card to use with it. If you don't know what World Legacy Clash is, I'll tell you. You get to banish any one face-up monster you control, then target a monster your opponent controls. That target loses attack equal to the original attack and defense of that banished monster. So that could actually be really good to deal with that invoked monster too, come to think of it, because it still uses its attack points during damage calculation, not its defense points. As well as that could be used to deal with the Gravekeepers that have that monster that, well, I don't know if you can target it. Let me search it real quick. So, Gravekeepers are an issue for this deck. That's one of the biggest things that will kill a Noble Knight deck is Gravekeepers. So let's see. This is their fusion. While Necro Valley's on the field, this card and any card in your field cannot be destroyed by card effects. Okay, so you can target the Supernaturalist. That card right there, he basically gets a big buff to his attack, so you can't attack over him very easily. It's usually over 3,000. And then on top of that, he protects Necro Valley. Necro Valley will completely shut you down because you can't pull any cards back out of your graveyard. And if you've noticed, all your equipped spells cycle in and out of the graveyard. It will destroy a Noble Knight deck easily. But if you use this, you could drop that thing's attack enough to be able to attack over it, and then you can destroy Necro Valley. Also, another thing that you have to deal with is that those decks also, pretty much any deck that uses spellcasters. Where is it? Whoops, why did I put a W? Oh, whatever. I'm just going to clear this and go to extra deck. Wow, that had some lag to it. Alright, let me just sort this by attack, because nothing has higher attack than this. Hardly at all. Here we go. Quintet Magician. That's what he's called. Can be fusion summoned with 5 spellcaster type monsters. If they use 5 of different names, it will destroy every card on your field. Now, while that's triggering, I mean, look at his attack. You're screwed if that actually triggers. Your entire field's getting wiped out, and then you have something that's going to OTK you. So, this could be handy as a last resort, right before everything gets destroyed, to drop its attack low enough to where you might survive, and then you get your monster back at the end of the turn. So, and also though, that's not coming out if they've got Necro Valley, because they usually need to banish all the monsters from their graveyard. So that'll be something you're going to have to deal with after you deal with Necro Valley. However, I was trying to use Silent Swordsman. Silent Swordsman is something that can work really good with Noble Knights. Let's see. Where is he? Here we go. I only have 1 copy of him. And again, that was my downfall in trying to use this deck profile, is I only have 1 Silent Swordsman. Silent Swordsman can be special summoned by tributing any warrior type monster on the field. Once per turn, during the standby phase, either player's standby phase, he gains 500 attack. But the real strength of him is that once per turn during either player's turn, when a spell card is activated, you can negate the activation. That is very powerful against Invoked and Gravekeepers, because both of them are really reliant right now on fusion. Now, of course, Gravekeepers can still summon with, that monster. They have a monster whose effect is, as long as Necro Valley's on the field, you can fusion summon without a spell, and you can use a monster from your hand and use that monster on the field. It's its own effect. So that one can still be used, but for the most part, Silent Swordsman can stop fusion summoning. Not to mention, if you can find a way to keep him alive long enough, he can just keep gaining attack. It's awesome. So that combined with World Legacy Clash could be extremely useful. I personally, also because I only ran one, I didn't run the Silent Swordsman level 7 because it negates all spell effects on the field, and I felt like that would actually hurt me more than help me, since I'm very dependent upon quick play spells. However, let me read this. You might be able... Yeah, you can special summon any Silent Swordsman, so you could go with a level 5, which, let's see, it's unaffected by your opponent's spell cards, so you can use him in conjunction with Silent Swordsman level 5, and both the Silent Swordsman, well, actually all Silent Swordsmen, can be equipped with Noble Arms equip spells, because they just specify to be equipped to a warrior. Guinevere, however, can only attach to a Noble Knight, and their ability of, when they're destroyed, bringing themselves back, they can only equip then to a Noble Knight. So you do lose a little bit of functionality, but a Silent Swordsman equipped with the Noble Arms of Destiny can be a very powerful thing. And I don't know if there's anything else I've forgotten to mention, so let me just, I'll browse through a few of my Noble Knight decks. Karibo is, any kind of hand trap is useful in this deck, such as Sphere Karibo. Sphere Karibo you can send from your hand to the graveyard to make an attacking monster go into defense. So not only could that make them more vulnerable to attack, it can protect you from an attack, but there's also I can't remember its name. There's one monster I was using. If you're not using Sealed Tombs, it's pretty handy. I didn't need it because I had Sealed Tombs, but it's a monster that you can discard from your hand to negate any effect that's activating in the graveyard. So, yeah, I'm gonna get rid of this text. So obviously it didn't say discard, it just said send. It's sorted by attack strength. He has 1700. So, right here, Skullmeister. During either player's turn, when a card effect is activated in your opponent's graveyard, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard and negate the effect. A lot of people don't use that, but that is actually very powerful. There is a lot of decks these days using grave effects, especially Blue Eyes. That has actually saved me against Blue Eyes decks, because they'll screw you over as well, since they can bring out that one Blue Eyes monster that can just banish any spell card that you have. You can't bring them back from being banished with the cards I'm using. I'm not using anything that, cycles them back, because very rarely do my actual equip spells get banished. But when I come across that deck, then I have that problem to deal with. And so the way they get that monster out most of the time is they have that one stone monster that when it's destroyed and it's in the graveyard at the end of the turn, you can activate its effect and special summon any Blue Eyes monster from the deck to the field. However, that Skullmeister will negate that effect and you'll prevent them from bringing their monster out. So it is also a very good tech card to put in here. I hope they add more hand traps in the future. That's the reason that the Kiteroid, Sphere Karibo, and Skullmeister are really good, is because your back row is going to be filled up most of the time. You try not to do it completely, but sometimes you just can't avoid it for the situation. So having cards that you can activate their effects from your hand is extremely essential and useful for the deck. But hopefully, like I said, I've discussed everything. I'm sure I'll probably think of something later, so I might update this in the future. But hopefully we've discussed Noble Knights. Every time I start to do the outro, there is some new Noble Knights that I thought might be interesting if you're running Celtic Guardian. Let's see here. Yeah, I did not discuss all the new Noble Knights. Let me rechange this. Let me change the sorting back to rarity. Okay. This guy right here. This dude seems really cool. Celtic Guard of Noble Arms. Cannot attack while you have any cards in your hand. Once per turn, you can special summon one Celtic Guard monster from your hand. When this attacking card inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can draw cards equal to the number of Celtic Guard monsters you control. Extremely useful because they're 2,100 attack. I mean, if you're wanting to just ram into somebody, this is a very good card to use. On top of the fact, if you have 3 in your hand, boom, 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 you have all 3 on the field. Because I'm pretty sure they can activate their effect once per Celtic Guard, not just one total. I don't know if Celtic Guardian counts, actually. But yeah, either way, I've been trying to figure out a way to do this. Another cool thing is that they are a Noble Arms card, so you can search them with boars as effect. So, that's super handy. Let's see here. Now, of course, everybody knows the other Noble Knights. I didn't really discuss them because I don't use them very much. I guess I can mention them now. There is one that is completely a normal monster, so that can be useful with any kind of cards that are based around normal monsters. Like Unexpected Die, I think it's called. You just special summon a normal monster from the deck to the field. If Rescue Rabbit were in this game, you bet your bottom I'd be using Noble Knight. Artorias. However you say it. Not the best at pronouncing people's names. But yeah. Then there's also Noble Knight Gawain. If you control a light normal monster, you can special summon this card from your hand in defense position. Now, these are really great if you're running the Xyz Noble Knights. However, the Xyz don't exist in this game yet, so these cards don't really have the full potential they could have, in my opinion. But of course, he's really handy since all of the Noble Knights, like this one, this card is treated as a normal monster while face up on the field. So really, you could use a slew of cards that support normal monsters while you're using Noble Knights, because they're like Geminis. However, they don't count as Geminis, but they work in a very similar fashion. I think a lot better. I did forget also to mention Noble Knight Brothers. So Noble Knight Brothers, when you normal summon them, you can special summon, up to 2 other Noble Knights to the field. And that's a cool effect as well, but they have 2,400 defense, so they're a really good blocker. And you can recycle your monsters. Once per turn, you can target 3 Noble Knight or Noble Arms cards in your graveyard, shuffle them into the deck, and draw a card. So running 2 of those, you could effectively just keep it going forever. However, in the current format, I don't think that the games last long enough to really constitute using him, but he is a good option. And there are other Noble Arms equip spells, such as Noble Arms Caliburn. Once per turn, you can gain 500 life points, as well as the monster that's equipped to gains 500 attack. Very, very handy there. There is this one. I've been trying to look into this. Celestial Sword Ethos. It can be treated as a Noble Arms card. I'm not sure why. It seems to work with Guardian Ethos. I don't have any experience with Guardian Ethos, but I thought this was quite the interesting card. If you have the cards and you've run a Guardian Ethos deck before, that is an option to combine with Noble Knights, apparently. We do also have Noble Knight Joan. If this card attacks, it loses 300 attack during the damage step only. If this card in your possession is destroyed by your opponent's card, either by battle or card effect, and sent to your graveyard, you can send one card from your hand to the graveyard, then target one level 4 lower warrior type monster in your graveyard and add that target to your hand. So it could be interesting. For the decks I've built, I've still yet to find a extremely good use for it. But I'm not perfect. I'm sure there's plenty of ways to use it that I'm not thinking of. Now, Bedweird, I did use him a little bit before I had 3 Madrouts in my Vylon deck build, because when he's normal summoned, you can send a Noble Arms equip spell from the deck to the graveyard. And he can also move the equip spells once per turn from one monster to another, so that's really cool too. Now, there is cards like Avalon that, if we were running 40 card decks, these cards make more sense. But since we're running mostly 20 card decks and Duel Links, I don't understand really how useful this could be. It says target 5 Noble Knight monsters in your graveyard, at least 1 Artorias monster, and at least 1 Lancelin. Banish those targets, and if you do, destroy all cards on the field. I mean, it's very powerful, but it's very conditional. You have to be using those monsters in your deck. Artorias? Yeah, which means you have to be using the normal one. And you have to be using Lancelin. Now, Lancelin's pretty cool. You can send 1 face-up light normal monster you control to the graveyard and special summon him from the hand or the graveyard, which is very, very handy. Then you can tribute 1 Noble Knight monster to add 1 Noble Arms card from your deck to your hand. You can only use this effect once per turn. And you can only control 1 of him at a time. I did use him a lot in real life, but like I said, with how small the decks are, I've not been using a lot of these tech cards because just there's not enough room for all the cards to really make their combos work, in my opinion. However, I'm always looking to be proven wrong. I don't think there's anything else I've missed. There is the field spell. And again, it requires there to be a lot of Noble Knights in the graveyard, so it doesn't seem super viable to me. But during your end phase, you can activate each of these effects up to once per turn, depending on the total number of Noble Knight cards with different names. Different names in the graveyard, and that's what screws you. You could possibly use it if they didn't say different names. Because most of the time, if you notice, I'm only using like 2 different Noble Knight monsters. If you have 3 or more, you can send 1 Noble Knight card from the deck to the graveyard. That sucks. If you're using 6 or more, special summon 1 Noble Knight monster from your hand. Then you can equip 1 Noble Arms equip spell from your hand to that monster. And 9 or more, target 1 Noble Knight monster in your graveyard, add that target to your hand. And if you somehow... Are there even 12 Noble Knights? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4... 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay. There are definitely more than 12 now, but there was not when that field spell came out. But yeah. So, I did save some of that till the end, but mainly because that's not a lot of what I'm using. I was discussing the better stuff towards the beginning. I almost completely forgot about it. Like, some of these aren't even counted as Noble Knights or Noble Arms at all when you get to the, Horse of Floral Knights. But yeah, hopefully they'll add Caliburn. Caliburn is a Noble Arms. Caliburn is an equipped spell in real life. It doesn't bring itself back, but when it's equipped to a monster, it can't be targeted by effects. If that were in the game, that would be awesome. But nope, haven't put it in Duel Links yet. So, anyways... Hope you liked the discussion. I've done the outro 3 times now, so I'm not going to do it again. Thanks for watching.